What's up, Mets fans? Welcome to a new episode of Teams of Queens podcast. Today we got our spring training recap for you guys. Steve Cohen announces some exciting news and some contract negotiation news. So to start off with our spring training recap, the Mets finished spring training 11-11-2. Few notable performers for the Mets this spring. Obviously the record, um, obviously at 500 with two ties, but for spring training, obviously you want to win games if you're a Mets fan, but that's not really what's about. It's just to see how guys develop. Pitchers obviously trying out new things earlier in spring, so if their numbers are a little bit, in different places, obviously that's just showing that they're trying out different things. So we're just going to give you guys our awards for spring training, and Tim will start it off first.
Yeah, so starting off with my first award, we're going to be starting off big with the MVP award, and I'm going to give this to Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso came into spring training losing a ton of weight, came into spring training last year in 2020, overweight. It's good to see Pete Alonso cutting some weight, staying locked in on the season, um, cutting some weight, which is probably a reason why so he had some struggles last year. Back in 2019 or 2019 spring training. If you guys don't remember, he had one of his best spring training, or he had a great spring training, and that translated to a great regular season for him. 2020 down spring training, obviously a big break. Didn't have a great year going in 2020, and he had a great spring training in 2021. So hopefully, that path leads on to what he did in 2019 with another 50 bomb year. So I think he had four bombs this year in spring training, drove in about 16 runs. Overall, he had a great spring training, showed some power, showed some baseball situation hitting, and overall good spring training for P. Alonso, and he gets my MVP award this spring training.
Okay, so for my MVP, I have Francisco Lindor. Obviously, you can't go wrong with who Tim had as his MVP. Pete Alonso raked this spring, but Francisco Lindor also had another great spring for the Mets. Hit 370, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, with an OPS over 1,000. So he looked really good this spring. Offensively, looked good defensively, and hopefully we can see him transition that into the regular season this year. And yeah, it was a really impressive first spring training for Francisco Lindor with the New York Mets.
So my original two MVPs were both Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. But going off the top of my head, just to switch it up a little bit, I'd probably have to give my MVP to Brandon Nimmo. Brandon did really well this spring. Um, I mean, he got on base like he normally does. Hit for decent power. I think he hit a few bombs. And the thing too that really stood out is he played excellent defense out in center field, which is obviously a question mark coming into this season. How Nimmo can handle himself, how he can perform in center field over the 162 games. Hopefully we get 162 games this year. Hopefully everything's fine with COVID. Hopefully it gets better and we get 162 again. But Brandon really stood out to me. Obviously, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, my first two picks, but I think I'll give that to Nimmo. For my pitchers, best pitchers, I'd probably go Jacob deGrom. Jacob was, insane this spring. I think he only gave up one run in all of his outings combined. He means deGrom in it. So, pitcher for me with deGrom. Reliever, I'm going to go Miguel Castro. Miguel Castro had a really nice spring training. I think he only gave up one run, if not maybe. It was 1 to 3 range. I'm pretty sure it was one, but another great spring training from Miguel Castro. Another guy I was going to go with Edwin Diaz, but Edwin Diaz kind of in his last outing of spring kind of struggled a bit in his inning. Gave up 3 runs, but also struck out the side. So he gave up 3, but struck out 3. That kind of blew up his ERA a little bit, but that one was great this spring training. Struck a lot of guys out, just as Miguel Castro. Miguel Castro is one of the more crafty guys in the Mets pen. He just really used his skill sets just to perform well this spring training. So if anybody else has to say anything, go ahead.
Yeah, so for my two pitchers, for spring training awards for my Cy Young, I'm gonna have to agree with Bubba. and give it to Jacob deGrom. He had a great spring training. Left maybe 1, maybe 2 runs. If I remember correctly, the runs he let up were home runs that barely made it out. So nothing to be too concerned there. So DeGrom's DeGrom, and he pitched like DeGrom. So nothing much to say with like that. And for my reliever, it could go either way. You could say Miguel Castro, Edwin Diaz, but someone who I was impressed with was Jacob Barnes this spring. He had a bad first outing where he left like a couple of runs in his first few outings, but I think in his outings from there on, I think he pitched perfect baseball from there. So for a guy who's on the bubble, it's really good to see him pitch well, and I think he will earn himself a spot on the opening day roster. So I was really happy to see what I saw of Jacob Barnes' in spring training. So I'll give him the reliever of the spring for the Mets.
Yeah, can't disagree with these guys, but change it up a bit. Jordan Yamamoto had a really good spring, pitching a little over 8 innings. Had some really good outings for the Mets this spring. Obviously, didn't make the team, but we'll definitely see Jordan at some point during this season, whether that's because of an injury or someone underperforming. Another reliever that pitched pretty well this spring in his limited time was Trevor Hildenberger. He had a really good spring for us. Struck out a lot of guys. Aaron Loop looked good this spring, as these guys said. Miguel Castro, Jacob Barnes, Edwin Diaz all looked great this spring. Yeah, Trevor May looked good. So pitching looked really good this spring overall. Even our starting pitchers, Marcus Stroman had a good spring. Taiwan Walker had a pretty good spring. So hopefully we can carry this into the season this year, because last year we really struggled in our pitching department, and it's probably the main reason we weren't able to make the playoffs last year. So hopefully we see a big jump in our pitching staff this year, especially with all these new additions. And it'll be interesting, especially with the season kicking off in a few days.
Just a few more spring training notes. Luis Rojas, like I was talking about before with Nimmo and defense. Rojas did point out today in an interview, I'm pretty sure, that this is probably the best defense he's seen the Mets play in camp. That's huge for the Mets, just because that they've been looked down on for their defense. Like I said, obviously Nimmo performing really well in the outfield for spring training, like really gives the Mets a spark out there, because center field is a pretty important position defensively. Obviously, you got guys like Kevin Pillar and Alvaro Amora who could go and get him on the bench, but Nimmo performing well in center was probably like really important for the Mets. Adding to that, Robert Gazelman has made the opening day roster, as Luis Rojas confirmed. Tim said Jacob Barnes may be on the bubble for it. I think it's pretty likely that Jacob Barnes makes the opening day roster at this point. Jerry Blevins, who is also really good this spring training, got sent down to the alternate site. It was questioned whether or not Jerry would retire from baseball, but he's going to the alternate site, which is really nice for Mets fans, as Jerry's a great guy. He's pitched well. He's been great in his career for the Mets. One of my favorite Mets. And yeah, so moving on to the next topic, if nobody else has anything else to say, Steve Cohen announced in an interview today that the Mets will be bringing back the black jerseys, the black uniforms that everybody's been wanting. Right here, I got my Mike Piazza black jersey. I'll throw this on, for the culture that we got going. The black jerseys are back. It's great. It's a great time to be a Mets fan.
Looking good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My Mike Piazza black jersey that I got for my birthday. So really happy that the black jerseys are back. Gives the Mets some swag. I feel like if they wear these on a Friday night game, it'd be like insane. It would be kind of like almost like threatening, like towards the other team. Like these guys could probably agree on. We could probably have a nice little conversation about the black jerseys here. It's up in the air whether or not people like them or not. I think majority of people do like them. It just gives the Mets another flavor too, because like you look back at who wore them. Mike Piazza wore them, Jose Reyes wore them, David Wright wore them. It's just like a nice little touch, and I like how Steve Cohen said that they got a few options and they're just going to let the players decide on what they want to wear, what they want to do with them. Marcus Stroman voiced his opinions. Taiwan Walker voiced his opinions today on social media, and they both loved it. So the Black jerseys are back. Great news.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'll let these guys talk about the Black jerseys being back.
You mentioned it's up in the air if people like them or not. I'm personally a big fan of the black jerseys. It gives a little team history as you said, guys like Mike Piazza and all the guys back then wore them. So it'll be cool to see the new generation wearing it, like Marcus Stroman, Dom Smith, Pete Alonso, all guys that have been preaching the black uniforms all along. And I'm finally glad that they're gonna be able to wear them. Steve Cohen got social media or got on Twitter to listen to the fans. And the main thing, the first things the fans wanted, other than all these free agents, was the black jerseys. So, and he made it happen. The Mets tweeted out it's official. They're going to play, he said, a few games in the black jerseys, and hopefully that turns into more games down the line. So I'm very excited about the black uniforms, and let's go Mets.
Yeah, I'm personally a pretty big fan of these jerseys. I know I can understand why some people might not like them because black isn't really one of our colors. But even if you don't like them, it's only going to be a few games this season, so it's not like you're gonna have to watch the Mets playing this every day. It's always interesting to spice up jerseys for teams as long as they're not absolutely garbage jerseys. But yeah, this should be interesting. A lot of the players wanted these, and they should look good in them. One of my favorite jerseys in the MLB right now is the Braves red jerseys that they wear on Friday night home games, and I think the Mets should do the same with these jerseys. So yeah, it's pretty good news to hear about this. The players have been wanting this for a few years now. Pete, Stroman, all these guys have wanted it, and they finally got it for sometime during the summer, and they're going to be selling these too. So you can cop some new Mets black Nike jerseys.
So what's up? What's kind of a question for me as soon as these got unveiled. Did I say the right word? If I didn't, I apologize for you at home. But as soon as these got announced that they be coming back, are they going to be modernized or are they going to be the same exact one as these? As Steve said, they're giving the guys a few options. Also, I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen with like the full uniform effect. Obviously, like blue helmets with the black jerseys. I don't know how that will look. Probably look pretty weird, but will they bring back the old pants? What are they going to do with the pants situation? Because I feel like blue pinstripes with the black jersey. I don't know how that would look really, despite what the new looks could be if they modernize them. New socks because the Mets got those blue and orange stand socks. Love those socks, but maybe they get some black socks or something that look pretty sick with maybe some white cleats. So I mean, we're gonna see these guys gonna be swagged out, especially to the likes of Dom Smith, Marcus Stroman, Taiwan Walker, Francisco Lindor, just to name a few of the guys that really got swag on and off the field. So I mean, I'm really excited for these black jerseys to be back. If anybody else has to say anything about it, go ahead. But if not, we'll move on to the next topic. So for the next topic, say some contract extension news. I mean, the main guy right now to go after is Francisco Lindor, obviously, and this could be more of like a conversation type of thing where we could all get involved with each other. We don't have to like wait for each other for this one, but I feel like we could just start a conversation because we were talking about this for a little bit because the Mets offered Francisco Lindor a 10-year, $325 million contract. He would be getting 32.5 mil per year annually. He counteroffered, or his agency counteroffered. That's the only thing up in the air right now, whether it's him or it's his agency. 12-year, 385, which would actually be less annual value. It would be only 32, while he's getting 32.5 from the Mets if they go through with that deal. The Mets 325 was set to be their best and final offer. Let's see if this is a leverage tactic by Lindor and his agency just to try to get a deal done. As of now, as this is being recorded right now, we got about 2 days to opening day. about 2 more sleeps or 3 more sleeps until opening day as now. Kind of nerve-wracking for a Mets fan to see if this happens. On the Conforto side, they made Conforto an offer. Not really any leverage on that side either. Not really any traction. It's not said. I don't think what the value was for his, or if there's been any counter offers for that one. But and then with Syndergaard too, they made an offer, but I think they're waiting to see how he does with Tommy John. So pretty interesting stuff going on right now. Me and the guys here were talking about what a Lindor contract extension could look like if they do want to split halfway, so we could get best of both parties, or if the Mets are just going to say, "Hey, sorry, this is our final offer. This is our best offer." Um, so let's spark up a conversation here. Whoever wants to, join first in, and then we could just have a conversation about this whole thing.
So basically, as Bubba said, there's 2 offers on the table right now. Lindor's counter offer and the Mets final offer. Whatever that you want to take out of that. So my take on this is, I don't know. Lindor is asking for a ridiculous amount of money if that's what he's asking for. Anything over 370 million is just out of my price range. Anything over 355, honestly, is a little much for me. I love Lindor. I'm the first person that would say offer him anything, but at the same time, you have to worry about our future. We have guys Pete, Brandon Nimmo, Dom Smith, Conforto, Stroman, Syndergaard. All these guys we gotta consider paying in the future, if that's recent or in the future. So, we gotta put that in the back of our mind too, because if we're gonna give him over 10 years, you gotta think, is he gonna be productive? And the answer to that is probably no in 10 years, and which will probably leave us in a similar situation as Robinson Cano, where we're paying him over $25 million. In Robinson Cano's case, $24 million a year, where we could be spending it on key free agents in 10 years, whoever that may be. So that's my take on it. Hopefully we can work something out, but I don't think the Mets should be pressured to meet Lindor at his price range if we don't feel comfortable with it.
Look, we all want to see Francisco Lindor stay with the Mets long term. I think the 10-year 325 is completely reasonable to what he's worth right now. What other comparable guys got on the market, but I don't think we can go that high to the 12,385 that him and his agency want right now, because I mean, I don't think he's worth more than a guy like Mookie Betts, who got less than that and who's a pretty good player. He's probably the second best player in baseball. So I just can't see us going that high. It handicaps us long term. It doesn't make sense for us. I think the 10-year 325 makes perfect sense for both sides. Francisco Lindor is getting over 320 million, and we're getting a star player for the next decade. And you have to think about this. Francisco Lindor, he can get injured on opening day, have a career-ending injury, God forbid. But if he gets injured, his value would just tank. I mean, that's a lot of money you're leaving on the table. That's really dangerous thing to do. We've seen players lose massive amounts of money because they chose not to sign a contract extension. In the NBA, we had guys like DeMarcus Cousins, Isaiah Thomas, who had detrimental injuries and ended up never being able to recover and missed out on huge paydays. So unfortunately, that can happen in sports. And that's why guys sometimes take extensions, maybe team-friendly extensions, even to have some job security and some millions of dollars saved, even if it's not really what they're worth. And I mean, this isn't not that case with Francisco Lindor. Is obviously going to be paid tons and tons of money either way. But I honestly can't see someone going out on the marketplace, this free agency coming up this winter, and giving him much more than what we offered. If anything, maybe a little bit more, but I can't see anyone going to the amount of money he wants unless he has some crazy MVP type season. So, I mean, right now I'd stick to our offer, maybe go a little bit higher, but if he doesn't want to sign it, then we'll let him play the year out. try and re-sign him in free agency. And if he doesn't want to come back, we can go pivot to other guys like Carlos Correa, Javier Baez, Trevor Story, Corey Seager. All those guys are going to be available this winter as well, who are all top of the line shortstops that we can end up signing that are going to be cheaper and let us spend our money in other areas. Because let's be honest, we can't have all of our money tied up in one guy for long term like that, because we have other guys. As Tim said, we're going to have to go out and extend those guys that are cheap right now, but are going to be making more money in the future. And who knows, DeGrom could opt out after next year and he could want a bigger contract. Maybe not years wise, but annual average value wise, because he's on a pretty good deal right now for the Mets, considering the value he's given us over these past few years. So we'll see what happens with Lindor over these next 2 days. He set the deadline to opening day, so we have a few days until then. Should be an interesting few days. Hopefully we can get something done. Maybe we meet in the middle. But as of right now, it's looking kind of 50-50-ish.
So honestly, when I heard that Steve Cohen went out to dinner with Francisco Lindor the other night, I was like, oh, this deal has a pretty good shot of getting done. Just kind of making chemistry. And then the Mets giving him a 10-325 offer. I honestly thought that would be, a reasonable offer just because of the fact that me and the guys here, we've been asking each other, playing video games, what do you think Lindor is going to get? What do you think Lindor is going to get? And it was always, 325 to 335 range, or 320 to 335 range, in between there, 10 years, 9 years, 8 years. And then we just, we're constantly saying that. But Lindor asking for 12, 385. Obviously Lindor's a great player, but the only thing is, the thing is crazy about that is if he doesn't reach an agreement with the Mets and he doesn't get that money that he wants, leaves for free agency, the question is our team's going to give him that offer? And I don't think it's going to be easy for him to get that offer. I think it's going to be pretty tough for him to go out there in the open market asking for that massive 12 385 deal or close to 400 deal and come away with a contract with a team, especially with all the shortstop talent on the market this year. The shortstop class stacked: Trevor Story, Javi Baez. Obviously, hopefully Lindor doesn't make it to the open market and signs an extension with the Mets. But if he doesn't, he'd be on the open market to see Carlos Correa. I don't know if I mentioned those guys already. My bad if I did. But it's a stacked market, and you look, and there's also guys like Anderson Simmons, Marcus Semien, I think, are both going to be free agents after this year. So you have to kind of look at the options. Lindor has to look at his options and say, all right, what am I going to get? Because Carlos Correa got about 100 to 200 million less than Lindor has got from the Astros in his contract negotiations. He turned that down. He's probably going to go to the open market unless they can meet on a deal, Correa and the Astros. But like what Mike was saying too, it's a risk too, because you look at guys getting franchise tagged in the NFL or not getting big time contracts, and it kind of doesn't go well for them just because of the fact that they either get hurt or they underperform. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Lindor. Obviously, it's kind of nerve-wracking for a Mets fan with the deadline coming really soon, 2 days away. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. If these guys have anything else to say, they can add it. So
just one final thought. They both make good points with the big free agency market right now, with highlighted by guys like Carlos Correa, Kyle Seager, or Corey Seager. I'm sorry. And so if we can't get a deal done with Lindor, which I hope we do, and Trevor Story, of course. I personally think Lindor fits the Mets the best. Lindor is meant for New York. I just feel it. Out of everyone in the market who needs a free agent, all the teams that need a market, I don't think Lindor would fit anywhere else as well as he would in New York. He would be able to grow his personal side things with his Lindor One shoes he's trying to sell. His personal brand is what I'm trying to say. He's trying to raise a family. New York's pretty good place to raise a family, in my opinion, if you find a good part. So I think everyone would love him here too. The most passionate fan base in MLB, the most loving, most welcoming, for family. That's the main thing he praises when he's talking about his contract extension is his family. We will welcome him with open arms, and I feel New York would be a great place for Lindor to finish off his career if we are able to get this deal done. And I don't think any place would fit Lindor's personality, talent, and future than New York and Queens. All right, so I think that's all we have for today's episode. We covered a lot of stuff today, including spring training, awards, our spring training recap. Talked a little bit about extensions. So, let us know what you guys think. The Lindor extensions, the spring training, how it went. What are you guys excited for opening day? Please let us know in comments. We love talking with you guys, talking Mets, and it's gonna be a big season ahead of us. So we're all in it together. We've been waiting for a season like this for a while. Every year's been our year at the beginning of the year, as we've been saying. But something about this year I feel special about. So hopefully, we can have a good year this year, and I'm feeling good about it. So, let's go Mets, baby, and
Let's go
cheers
Mets.
for a good 2021 season.